All right. I thought, and I haven't produced any material on this channel for a while. Um, and there's someone asking a lot of questions around meditation and what to do with the mind in Tai Chi. So I thought I would come online and quickly share. I haven't done this kind of work in a, done these solo videos before. Usually it's always with myself, Fabi, Mikey, Juan, all my buddies, right? So, hoping this will be helpful for some people. So, the topic is, how does meditation relate to internal martial arts or internal arts? And what is the role of meditation? How to meditate? I mean, there are so many different definitions of meditation itself, right? Like some people consider just thinking about some topic as meditation. Other people might have some other definition. Maybe they're repeating a mantra, and that could be a type of meditation. But to me, meditation really is the process of going inward, becoming aware of the contents of our mind, and entering a state of stillness where the mind does not move. There's no movement of the mind, right? In the Tai Chi world, we also call it emptying the mind, right? So how does the mind become empty? And by that, I don't mean that there are no thoughts in your mind, right? So the mind by its nature is constantly active. It's There are thoughts rising and falling. What emptying the mind or stilling the mind really means, in the way I look at it, is you don't grasp at thoughts. Like if a thought arises, you just let it go. You don't chase after it. You don't try to follow it. Like the nature of our mind is actually a combination of four things. Okay. So this is what like the traditional Hindu Vedantic system talks about. Is the mind has four components. What we call the mind in the West, right? So there is this, the four components are like this. So there is what we call the chitta, and chitta is essentially like a storehouse of memories and impressions. Like all our memories, feelings, being able to correlate events that are happening with something that's happened in the past, maybe a smell or a taste triggering some memories. All of these things reside in the storehouse of impressions and memories. Okay, and then there's this aspect called the manas. The manas is literally like the field in which thoughts arise. So it's think about it like a stream, and in that stream there are things that rise up to the surface or sink down to the bottom. And what rises up to the surface is essentially like, our thoughts, right? So thoughts could be abstract thoughts. It could be, we're looking at things outside and we look at it and say, hey, look, um, you know, this this thing that I'm holding up, it's actually a thought in in the manas, or in the mind. Okay. The third aspect of it is what is called buddhi, or the intellect. So the intellect is the one that allows us to do rational inquiry, do mathematics, all those kind of things. Like, so if you have a thought, 2 plus 2, and the answer is 4, the the process that lets you make that 2 plus 2 equals 4 is called buddhi, or your intellect. And the fourth aspect of it is what we call ahamkara. And ahamkara basically means what typically we call the ego. And it's also a process, and its role is to apply labels. So I say, okay, so I have this earbud in my hand, right? So this is an earbud, and this is my earbud. So the fact that I'm affixing a label on it and I'm saying this is mine, that is the role of the ahamkara, or the ego, right? In the same way, you said, this is a hand, this is my hand. So that is also the role of this process of the mind called ahamkara or the ego. So now, when we meditate, our objective is to let the intellect settle down, let the ego or the ahamkara not become active. It stays in the background, and observe the thoughts that are arising in the mind. And there's different stimuli for thoughts to arise, and the mind, by like I said, the mind by nature is very mercurial, it's always changing, right? So the process of observing thoughts, like you're watching a stream and things rise to the surface, you observe it, let it go, and there's again water flowing, and then another object rises to the surface, maybe it's a bubble, maybe it's a wave, right? So you observe it, let it go. Now, over a period of time, when we keep doing this over and over again, there'll be situations where the mind gets distracted. There might be a thought that arises suddenly. Maybe you have a list of things that you want to do, and you sit down to say, okay, I'm going to spend 10 minutes doing meditation right now. And then all those things in your outside the meditation life come in and start interrupting you, right? So it's very important for us to be kind with ourselves and not feel guilty if our mind gets distracted. Just gently bring it back to the process that's happening. So not everybody can actually sit and observe the mind directly like that. So a very useful tactic is to use the breath. So you sit down in a comfortable position, maybe in a chair, and then close your eyes and breathe in and breathe out. So as you're breathing in, you feel the air going, against your nostril. And as you're breathing out, you feel the air coming out of the nostril. So all you do is just sit and observe the air going in, air going out. And you're not trying to control your breath, you're not trying to speed up, slow down, anything. Just simply observe. And this process of doing a repetitive action over and over again will trigger this process of starting to observe the mind. You will start observing your contents of your mind. The mind stream becomes apparent. Okay, so that's how you get into meditation. You start 5 minutes, maybe take 10 minutes, and slowly build it up till you can go for 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour, depends on what you want to do. So how does it all relate to, like, release in, like, tai chi, right? So we're saying that we are using the mind to release something. So if there's, like, for example, if there's an incoming force coming in, what's the natural reaction of the mind? As soon as it senses something connecting to the body, it basically start the mind goes right there. Wherever the contact is, that's where the mind goes. So by learning to empty the mind, so to speak, with the meditation method, you can then basically redirect it to go somewhere else, not be here at the point of contact. So that's like a very basic explanation of how release happens. Is when you release, that means you're letting go. So your mind is no longer stuck here. You let go of it. You don't need to. You don't obsess over that point of contact. You just release. So that's how letting go also happens. Like, you can take something like this in your hand, and how do you let go? You just let go, right? It falls. That's the same way the mind, whenever there's any kind of stimulus, a thought arises, you don't hold on to it, just let it go, it'll go off on its own. So that's the process of letting go. That's a process of release. And internal release, like energetic release, physical release, happens when you start to train your mind, or basically become empty. And the more your mind becomes empty, the easier it is, and the faster you can release, and basically apply your internal skills. All right, so that's pretty much it. I hope it was useful. Thank you.